This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
Okay, I'm Wendy Giroux. I'm the CEO of the Durham Region Association of Realtors, and welcome. We cover 1,500 realtors in the Durham region. And we're glad that you're able to be here with us this evening to hear the provincial candidates speak about the issues that are important to all of us. I'd like to start by acknowledging the lands and the people of the Mississauga-Scugog Island First Nation. We are thankful to be welcomed on these lands in friendship. And these lands are situated are covered under the Williams Treaty and the traditional territory of the Mississaugas and the branch of the Greater Anishkabami, the nation of Algonquin, Ojibwe, Ottawa, and Potawatomi. Lands remain home to a number of Indigenous nations and people. We acknowledge this land out of respect for the Indigenous nations, and they're cared for by the Turtle Island, also called North America, from before the arrival of the settlers people. Until this day, we thank them for their stewardship of these lands and water. And a lot has happened in the last 4 years as we've gathered like this provincially. The COVID-19 pandemic has affected literally every aspect of our lives. The province and the healthcare to supply chain management, housing availability, and housing supply. Our priorities had to adjust since 2018. The opportunity to be here and hear directly from the parties and candidates hoping to represent the riding of Oshawa in the next provincial parliament is fundamental value that we need to recognize that is not necessarily available to many regions around the world. To the candidates here today, thank you so much for your passion and dedication to your communities. It takes an incredible amount of courage to step forward to put your name on the ballot, especially in today's polarizing political world. We recognize and appreciate the sacrifice made by you and your families during the next few weeks of this campaign. Thank you again. And it is a great pleasure that I introduce Peter Bocking, the Greater Oshawa Chamber of Commerce 2022 President. He is a partner at Bocking & Grieve Limited, a boutique insurance brokerage. As your moderator today, welcome, Peter.
Thank you very much, Wendy. Good evening, everyone. We can hear me okay? All right, I'm just a little bit taller than Wendy. So good evening. As Wendy said, my name is Peter Bocking. I'm the 2022 President of the Board of Directors for the Greater Oshawa Chamber of Commerce, and honored with the privilege of helping to steward our evening tonight along with the candidates here in front of us, so thank you. Special thanks as well, in addition to the kind words of Wendy there as well, to our co-producers of tonight's event, being the Durham Region Association of Realtors, as well as the Durham Region Home Builders Association. So thanks to those two organizations for all your contributions in helping us to pull this all together. Thanks also to Rogers Television for rebroadcasting the recordings of tonight's discussions. We do have cameras here, and they'll be making sure that the footage is available for everyone else to see that wasn't able to attend us this evening. And also a special thanks to this fantastic venue that's right downtown Oshawa, the Biltmore Theatre. We'd like to thank you as well for hosting us and having everybody in here this evening. Thanks also to our audience, the folks that were able to join us here tonight. Events like this obviously add a lot of value when we're able to have some folks that are passionate enough about our leadership in our communities, and so thank you for taking the time out of your evenings to come out and be a part of tonight's events. And as well, as Wendy said, thank you to our candidates too, not only for taking the time out of your busy schedules to be here, especially at such a time of year, but also for the sacrifice and dedication that each of you make to our communities, and your leadership and your desire to make a difference in your role. So thank you all for that as well. No matter the outcome of tonight, we do appreciate you stepping up and serving your community. So I'm just going to take you through a few housekeeping rules for this evening's debate. You know, it's hard to know how to play the game properly if we don't know the rules, so we'll sort of start out with that so that everyone's on the same page. So the format for this evening's discussion is a question and answer. The questions have been predetermined and brought to us by a group of community members and stakeholders within various committees. So we vetted those questions, so we'll be working through those together here tonight. The candidates, I will share, were not provided with the questions ahead of time. So this is very much a very sort of authentic conversation. And sort of looking forward to the responses. The way the evening will work is I'll present a question. Each candidate will be provided with 2 minutes to provide a response, up to 2 minutes to provide a response. And in order to make sure that everyone's got equal opportunity to be both the first and the last person to respond, we've changed up the order. So I'll call out the names of the individuals to answer just so that we know who's going in what order for each question. The subject of providing rebuttals, we would like to try to avoid it if we can, just in the interest of time. However, if I sort of get a sense from the response of one of the individuals that there might be a fair opportunity for a brief response from the candidate who was maybe mentioned in the other person's comments, then we'll provide a maximum of 30 seconds, which will also be indicated by our timer, Carrie Ann. So thank you, Carrie Ann, for that. But again, won't necessarily be a rebuttal to every question, just in the moments that we feel it might be necessary. Within the 2 minutes, you'll have your opportunity to speak. As mentioned, Carrie Ann will hold up a first yellow card, which will indicate 30 seconds left. She'll then hold up a second yellow card. It's actually the same one, just a different number on the back. That indicates 10 seconds left, and then the final card will be a red card indicating I get to stop you from talking, which is not the part I'm looking forward to because I love hearing these responses. But so that's sort of the format of play, so to speak. The goal for this evening, as mentioned, you know, and partly in the spirit of why the questions weren't shared in advance, is we're looking for, number one, mutual respect amongst each others on the stage, as well as between the stage and the audience as well as sincerity. And so just that opportunity, I think, not only to just sort of maybe just talk about what might be in sort of a textbook or as part of you know, a platform type response, which is obviously going to be necessary in part in some of your responses, but also just any sort of authentic perspective of how each of you as individuals look forward to serving the community and making the differences based on the questions as well. So just looking forward to some of that sincerity and transparency as well. Just make sure I don't fall behind here. In fairness to our candidates, make sure we stick to our allotted time. That's where I have to play police a little bit. We know that already. To our audience, we even have some rules for you guys as well. Our security team is standing by. We know we're not going to need them. But we do have somebody here just to help if things get riotous, but I know that they won't. You're already just a friendly group of people with smiles on your faces, just looking forward to me stop talking until we can get this thing going. So, but please refrain, if you could, from audible or public displays of personal opinion during the Q&A if I can. I don't know how else to say it, whether it be positive in the form of applause or negative in the form of booing or anything like that. We're just sort of looking for that opportunity to create a fair platform for everybody to represent their responses if we could. So I'll politely ask for that if we may. At the end of the evening, of course, a fair applause for everybody you know, would be obviously appropriate at that point in time. And in addition to that, of course, you'll have your opportunity to support your chosen party on June 2nd, which is excellent too. Following Following the evening, I do want to mention as well, you've probably noticed on your way in, there are some tables set up at the back of the room. Our goal is to be finished a little bit early so that each of our candidates can actually spend a bit of time at their tables, and you'll have the opportunity to approach them for your own individual discussions or conversations as well too. So we'll try to make sure there's time for that. Pardon me. We'll start the evening off with an individual opening statement from each of our candidates. We'll close the evening off with an additional 3-minute opportunity for any closing remarks they might wish to share. I think I've got all of my rules out of the way. Is everyone still awake? Okay, now for the exciting part. So we'll get started. If I may, and for this one, I'll just start closest to my left and move across the stage. We'll start the timer for 2 minutes and welcome some opening remarks. So Ms. Down, if you wouldn't mind starting us off.
Great. Okay. Well, firstly, I'd like to thank the Greater Oshawa Chamber of Commerce, Durham Region Association of Realtors, and Durham Region Home Builders Association for inviting us here today. What an honor it is to be up here with an all-female candidates tonight. My name is Alex Down. I'm the PC candidate for Oshawa. I'd like to start my introduction with a story about a family from Oshawa. Oshawa is my hometown. It's where my grandparents' family on my father's side settled from England and began farming. It's where my family on my mother's side settled from the Ukraine and eventually started working on my great-grandfather's farm. It's where my great-grandfather Norman Down was mayor and my grandmother Marianne Sholdra was city councillor. It's where my father had a thriving business downtown Oshawa and my mother was a teacher at Vincent Massey. And it's where I met my husband and we had our daughter at Lakeridge Health in Oshawa. I'm running to be the next MPP for Oshawa for my daughter's future and generations to come. I care about our city and the future of our province, and I think it's incredibly important that Oshawa is represented by an MPP who's local and lives here day in and day out. Oshawa deserves a seat at the decision-making table and to see real action. It's time for Oshawa to be on the side of investment and growth in Ontario, and it starts by voting for Alex Down in 2022. I would be honored to make my hometown proud and serve as your MPP. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Ms. French.
Thank you very much. And I'm Jennifer French, and it is my honor to come to this debate. And again, I also would like to thank the organizers for hosting this. I got my first career job as a supply teacher in Oshawa almost 20 years ago when I lived in a basement apartment on Harmony when you could buy that or could rent for $600. And then I got my first full-time permanent teaching job and was able back then to afford a little townhouse, Alex, on the property that used to be your grandfather's farm, as you know, back in the day for $200,000, give or take. I love my house and my neighborhood. I'm lucky to live where I want to and live where I work in Oshawa, and many folks can't, and folks in this room know that. 8 years ago, I was teaching grade 7 and 8 in South Oshawa and realized my students who may have had big dreams may not have had clear pathways ahead, whether they could afford post-secondary or whether there would be the jobs in their community for them. And I got it in my head that I wanted to be in the rooms where decisions were made, and I put up my hand back in 2014 and they picked me. And it is a massive job to be the MPP, but there's so much at stake in terms of those bright futures, not just for kids and students across the community, but also for our loved ones. And I do, I'm very proud to have been able to serve the community, but not just Oshawa, across Durham region. We have a lot of shared priorities, and I firmly believe that we can have a better healthcare system and education system. I do think that we can have affordable and safe housing for folks, that we could imagine access to healthcare without the wait times, that we can have a care system for our aging loved ones.
10 seconds.
I do think that better is possible, and I'm ready and committed and hopefully going to be serving in the next government. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Mosca, after you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Are you hearing me good?
Yes?
Yes, okay.
Yes.
Afternoon, everyone. Thank you to the organizers. Thank you to my honorable opponents. We all know what is involved in getting involved in doing what we are doing here today. We were asked this evening to open by saying what our personal vision is. So my personal vision for Oshawa is that Oshawa be a place that people would want to live, grow, work, and visit. Unfortunately, Oshawa demonstrated within the past few years what a community looks like when its most vulnerable have been left behind. My vision for Oshawa would be to attend to the homelessness, ensure that those with mental health and addictions receive the support they need. I believe we need to build more schools, renovate those that we have. We need affordable housing. We need to see families thriving. They're hardworking families who are reaching out to food banks still because they cannot afford to shelter or feed their families. I want to see small businesses prosper. A lot of them struggled and suffered. I want to see them get the support they need, and I want to see others encouraged and given support to start small businesses. I want to see seniors stay in their homes, those who want to age in their homes. I want to see them provided with the support that they need. I also want to see downtown Oshawa with a facelift that matches the beauty of this theater here. I also want to see Oshawa build a place, an attraction that would attract visitors to come to Oshawa. That will bring revenue for Oshawa. And last but not least, I want to see all levels of government work together in a non-partisan way to find effective and efficient solutions that are in the best interest of the constituents of Oshawa. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all three of you. Okay, we'll move into question number 1. The movement of goods, services, and people is a critical aspect of running a competitive business. What is your commitment to improving transportation both within Ontario as well as cross-border to our neighboring provinces and even into the USA, including rail, airports, maritime, and highways? And how will you ensure that Oshawa business interests are well represented? We'll start with Alex Down.
Thank you for the question. I think we've seen time and time again that our Ontario PC government has proven themselves that they are the party that's going to get this done. Doug Ford and our PC team have a plan to get it done by building highways and key infrastructure. For me personally, in Oshawa, I know the struggles that it is to try to commute into Toronto for work. I used to do it firsthand back before I got into the industry that I'm in right now. You try to get onto the 401 at Harmony Road, you battle traffic to get to the Stevenson Road exit and get onto the GO train from there, and you battle to try to get parking, and then maybe you've got some standing room. So we have an issue, we know, with highway transportation and of course getting ourselves back to and from areas that we may not necessarily live in but we work in. And as a PC candidate, I'm very proud to say that I will be fighting for the GO train extension to continue forward into Oshawa with a Thornton Road exit, a Thornton Road station, a Ritson Road station, Curtis and Bowmanville. That's $730 million investment, which means not only transportation, that means jobs, that means housing around key transit lines, that means walkability for our downtown. And that'll relieve some of the congestion that we're seeing on our highways when it's a better choice right now to take a car into Toronto or try to travel across to get to work. We need that accessibility, and for Oshawa, I will 100% be pushing for that to be top priority come government.
Thank you, Alex. Catherine Mosca.
If there's one thing that we would always remain conscious of is the environment. So if we can avoid emissions on the roads as much as we can, we would always push for that. The the railway is the best way to transport goods to and from. We are encouraging commuters to use the GO train system to get 400,000 cars off the street, because we are going to reduce the cost of transit to $1. Our focus would always be what is in the best interest of the environment, while we're also helping people put more money in their pockets to live. So that would be the way we would approach anything concerning transportation, would always be taken into consideration the environment.
Thank you. And Ms. French.
Thank you very much. And I think whether folks in this room or folks at home are commuters, whether they take transit, if they have the occasion to do business with the port, or however they're connected to transit and transportation, I think we all realize that it is very important to plan appropriately with all levels of government, and to make sure that the transit and transportation networks meet the needs. So whether that's a student trying to get to and from their classes, or whether that is the movement of goods, and we're dealing with the agricultural sector. I know that there are folks here probably from the Hamilton Oshawa Port Authority or connected there. The government needs to be a partner. Well, you have the federal pieces, the provincial pieces, all of that. It's still a community partner. And so I am committed to continue to do that work, but also with that local connection. I was proud to fight doggedly to have the tolls removed from the 412 and 418. It was the first order of business to table that bill when I got to Queen's Park in 2018, and finally they came off 4 years later. But we did it. I'd say the community did it. But that was about the movement of folks in this community and fundamental fairness. I think when we're looking at spending money on highways like the 413 or the Bradford bypass that are not going to make the difference in the lives of folks, but are going to make a difference to the donors and the folks with a financial vested interest, that is not how we should be spending money for transportation. Infrastructure needs to be well planned, connected to municipalities and folks in an area who know the importance of intensification, not building things out in the middle of nowhere that don't have services. How do we get there? All of this is key to ensuring that communities can thrive, that folks can get around, and I'm committed to doing that work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Question 2. Quick pause. Does he get 2 minutes as well? 2 minutes. 10 seconds. Question 2. How will you enable small and medium-sized businesses growth and attract to experience growth and attract diverse large tech and innovation firms to continue to improve the employer profile of Oshawa and the Durham region? Would you like me to read that again? How will you enable SMB's growth and attract diverse large tech and innovation firms to continue to improve the employer profile in Oshawa and the Durham region? And we'll start with Catherine Mosca.
We recognize that small businesses struggled a lot over the COVID-19 pandemic. Many of them have closed down. Some of them have fought to continue, and they are struggling to continue. We are going to support them further by getting rid of corporate tax for 2 years. Anybody who wants to start up a new business, we will cover the startup fees, the $300 registration fee. It may not sound like a lot, but that discourages a lot of people from trying to start a business, because they may have a good idea but wonder if that amount of money would support them in any way. We will always support small businesses, because we see small businesses important to help grow families also, because there are a lot of people who want to get into the small business just to take care of their families and thrive. So we will support small businesses and ensure that they get all the support they need to perform well and to do well in the city of Oshawa. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer French.
Thank you, and I'm sure that there are many folks who are small and medium-sized business owners or workers in this room, and thank you for an unimaginable road that you had to walk during the pandemic. The Ontario Small Business Support Grant was one heck of a thing. My office got to know a lot of local businesses during that time because it wasn't a smooth rollout. I'm grateful for those who were able to get the help and for those who never qualified. Yeah, we did a lot of work to ensure that you did have the supports you needed. Moving forward, you know, New Democrats would be a stable and predictable, transparent partner to businesses, especially when we have uncertainty on the horizon. We've all lived through this pandemic, but moving forward, would engage in that strategic government procurement from small and medium-sized businesses and nonprofits. We want our businesses locally to be able to compete on the big scale, right? We don't want to see what we saw during, well, recently the pandemic, where the big box stores got the benefit and got to keep doing business and the small businesses didn't. So we want to see fairness moving forward, but innovation, especially when we look in Oshawa, we've got some great ideas here. And there are barriers. There are barriers for entrepreneurs, for Black-owned small businesses, for others facing barriers. And the NDP would be a partner with those who are looking to grow. And certainly when it comes to tech and innovation, we want there to be a clear path forward for those creative ideas. So again, to work as a partner, work with the business community. We have been doing that work. I would encourage you, because I'm running out of time, to check out our platform for the specifics. But looking forward to seeing that growth, especially in our community, but then I'm biased, so.
Thank you. And Alex Down.
Our PC team is building Ontario. We have a real plan to grow our economy and continue to rebuild from the pandemic. You know, I'm very proud of the work that our government has done to recognize the struggles that small businesses have gone through and address them immediately for them throughout the pandemic. There's no doubt that these small businesses are the backbone of our province and also in our own great town of Oshawa. You know, we stepped up with small business during the pandemic with $3.4 billion in supports, and we're going to need to continue to keep building our economy, to keep stepping up for those businesses so that not only can they survive, but they can prosper now post-pandemic. And of course, you know, with the GO Train extension, with it coming up through Thornton Road and into Ritson Road, it makes me really think about what that transformation is going to look like downtown for Oshawa and those areas that have struggled to keep business due to walkability, due to any sort of infrastructure issues. We will be generating that business in Oshawa, in Ontario, and I trust that our government's going to do that. And you can look plainly and see with the investment, the milestone investment that our PC government got with GM Canada, where we were able to return 2,600 jobs to Oshawa plant and a third line. It's incredible, and we're happy to continue to push forward for businesses, small or large, in Oshawa and in Ontario.
Thank you, Alex. Okay, question 3, and I just want to clarify for this one as well, just so everyone's on the same page. There is a question coming up a little bit later with regards to real estate, house prices and things. This is specifically about land for business, so I'll read the question here. So how will you make provincially and federally controlled land more accessible and available for business development in Oshawa? And we'll start with Ms. French.
This was certainly a conversation that I had with the local realtors because it is a need when we look around our communities, not just Oshawa, but look around the province. and we're needing homes. Like, we've got to build homes and all sorts of different kinds of homes, not just the big single-family ones, but the missing middle. We have to have access to. It's not just land, but also properties. And there are some creative opportunities with repurposing buildings. And, you know, having learned on the government side about the Ontario Realty portfolio and just how long it takes, or how long it has taken government to not just release some of these properties, but even be able to consider different use for them. We've seen some great examples locally, but it's taken a heck of a lot of time. So to your question about land for business, whether that, I mean, I went immediately to housing because it's such a need. But to reimagine those spaces, to create the pathways, you know, we've heard other governments talk a lot about red tape, but it isn't about red tape so much as it is looking at the planning and ensuring that those good ideas are able to move forward. Freeing up the land for business, I'm looking forward to actually figuring out what's in the way. So working with the Chamber, working with different partners to figure out what are those tripwires, what is it that government can do to be a better partner. Well, I'm not sure if it's insurance pieces as well, like all of that factor in so that we can have those local success stories, innovative solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Down.
I've been advocating for housing affordability throughout my career, and I've been fortunate enough to sit with individuals, including Jennifer French, across all levels of government, advocating for consumer protections, housing affordability, and the like. You know, this is a very interesting topic because here in Oshawa we have a mix of different uses that we could have for some of these spaces. We've certainly advocated in front of City Council in the region on this topic before, and I always come back to the thought that our PC government has the framework in place to be able to collaborate with municipalities and the region to help find the most optimal use of those spaces. We're focused on building safely and efficiently, and to meet the needs of the growing population. I don't know the stat off the top of my head, but we're looking to probably triple in population by the time it's 2040. And we need to make sure that we're looking at a progressive stance on what that's going to look like and that we're working in partnership. And one of those partnerships that I'm also proud of is the fact that our government has looked to professionals within the industry for real advice on what could and couldn't work, including the housing task force that was created. And we actually have even the CEO of Habitat for Humanity sitting on there. So you have a variety of intellects that are sitting on this board that can give real life experience to what that's looking like. And our PC team is building Ontario. We're seizing opportunities to help deliver better jobs and bigger paychecks for workers and help keep costs down for families.
10 seconds.
And it's going to involve getting shovels in the ground and working in collaboration with all municipalities.
Thank you. Ms. Muska.
One of the greatest concerns these days is the lack of housing, affordable housing. I know your question focused on business, but that is right now the priority, affordable housing. We intend to build 1.5 million houses over 8 years, and we intend to set up an Ontario Home Building Corporation to build and sell those properties. If there's anywhere within that where they can allow for some small businesses or other businesses to be part of that, then that could also happen. We're also going to ensure that lands that developers purchased and they are already approved for building and they're sitting on, we are going to ensure that they either be levied with taxes or they move forward and start building. We have a serious crisis with respect to building and housing throughout the whole of Ontario. And we are going to ensure that this does not continue to be an issue, that we work feverishly with all levels of government to ensure that we do it in an effective and efficient way, and to ensure that we get all the buildings that we need put up within a timely fashion also, so we can also house businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Housing is such a significant issue on everybody's mind right now, so I hope it's okay. I'm going to extend an additional 30 seconds to each candidate timekeeper, if we may. Just to rephrase the question, if anybody wishes to pass, that's totally fine. But just want to sort of really zoom in. I know that businesses both existing in Durham region and in Oshawa, as well as new businesses considering relocation, are looking for lands even to build from scratch. And I know that that's part of the spirit of where the question came from. So we do have another question that will readdress personal real estate and home ownership and things as well a little bit later on this evening. But just to rephrase that question, additional 30 seconds on the clock, and we'll follow the same order again. So just how will you make provincially and federally controlled land more accessible and available for these businesses in Oshawa? So we'll start with Ms. French.
I think I'll focus on the partnerships that have to happen, because we have phenomenal businesses with innovative, creative ideas who are stymied, by the roadblocks or what have you. You have often unimaginative, folks working in government that maybe can't see the potential. And so without having been in, one of those deals, I would say that the partnership piece really has to happen, that the province needs to recognize that they would have to come to the table with opportunities to free up land, not great new farmland or available farmland, but sorry.
Thank you. Nope, thank you very much. Thank you. Ms. Down.
There's a few ways to do this. Yes, definitely collaboration amongst the levels of government. Really, what you're looking to do is to get input not only from city councils or the regional council of Durham, but those professionals within the industry, and that's where circumstances, special projects that come up, that come forward through to the province, need to have individuals that are addressing it in a way that they've spoken with professionals within the industry to understand it further.
Thank you very much. Thank you. After you.
I agree with Alex. We need to get all levels of government and the professionals involved in the industry to put their heads together to come up with an effective and efficient solution to that issue.
Thank you very much. Moving to question 4. The hospitality, tourism, and culture industries have taken a huge hit as a result of this pandemic. What measures are you prepared to take to grow tourism in Oshawa and within the region? We'll start with Alex Down.
Well, I love this question. Coming from someone who used to participate in Fiesta Week every year since she was 5 years old, I used to dance for Odessa Ukrainian Pavilion. I understand what it is to bring tourism to our city and to see the impact that has not only on the well-being of our residents, but also the businesses and subsidiary businesses that overlap from that. Just this weekend, I had the chance to go see the Oshawa Kicks Frank Sobel Spring Tournament. And it was the first one since the pandemic happened, so since 2019. And it was incredible to see the eagerness in people and the camaraderie amongst people who wanted to spend time with their family in areas that weren't just their home that they've been spending it in. So I'm proud to be a part of a government who has recognized the struggles that we've gone throughout the pandemic, who have given tax breaks for those that are looking to travel within Ontario and encourage people to spend their dollars locally, yes, but also within Ontario to help those businesses, to lift them up, because we've got some amazing gems here in Oshawa, and I'm lucky to have been a part of a lot of them throughout my time.
Thank you very much. Catherine Moscow, you're up next.
Well, we plan to firstly put more money into people's pockets, because people have been struggling seriously because of the the pandemic, and they continue to struggle. So we plan to put more money into people's pockets so they can do extra things, like visit and you know, do the things that go stay in hotels, all of these different things. We're going to put more money in their pockets by increasing the minimum wage. We are going to reduce childcare before and after school to $10. We are also going to put back money into families' pockets, $2,750 retroactive childcare up to January 1st. We are going to reduce the cost of transportation. If someone has to pay $1 to travel from wherever to come up to Oshawa, they will do it with their families, because that will be putting a huge savings into their pocket. And all of that could just help promote. We're going to ensure that minimum wage, as I said, you know, is increased to a reasonable amount to encourage those workers to continue and to give them a decent living. And as I said initially, I would like to see something really big happen in Oshawa, a huge attraction that will attract people from all over the world to come and visit Oshawa. And I think that will bring revenue, and it will increase the hospitality, etc. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Jennifer French.
I'm going to take a page from each of my colleagues and say, I cannot wait till we have Fiesta properly again. And in terms of, you know, big events, we miss AutoFest so badly, like all of us do in Oshawa. So I know that we're all hoping that we can get back to some of our special stories and our, you know, the ways that we connect to each other, but to the community. We've seen, I mean, arts and culture and tourism has just been, it's been so heartbreaking across the province, you know, and speaking specifically about our neck of the woods, we have a lot of new neighbors in Oshawa. You know, all three of us have been out knocking on doors. You guys, I'm sure where you live, are meeting new neighbors on your street, you know, folks from Toronto or from elsewhere that are trying to figure out our culture and our community, and we want to make sure that we can showcase that. So one of the things that, you know, that the NDP is proposing is we're fighting for a rebate for local tourism, so that, you know, families can get up to $1,000 back if they eat or play or stay at locally owned small businesses, and that's a way that we can keep that money in the community, but also invite people to get to know us and get to know them, because we desperately miss each other, I think. But it does speak to affordability as well. We need people to have, you know, to be able to spend money in their communities. Yes, the rebate would make a difference and hopefully be that incentive. But all of the other ways that may not feel connected to arts and culture, you know, whether it's dental care or pharmacare and saving money in those ways, but then hopefully they will go out and spend it in our communities and protecting small business. If there is another surprise like a pandemic, we want businesses to have predictable income streams or predictable supports and predictable partners in what will be the next government, NDP government. Thank you.
Thank you. Given that we have 3 post-secondary institutions right here in Oshawa, one could argue that there is no reason to have a significant worker shortage in Oshawa or even in the Durham region. What is your plan to promote, train, and retain workers in Oshawa, especially in the skilled trades? And we'll start with Ms. Mosca this time.
Having these universities in Oshawa is a very positive thing. We always have to consider, where do the students go after they leave university? We need to ensure that the businesses that we have in Oshawa, and we need to support them to do this, that they have internships, and they have internships that are paid roles. I see no reason why a student who leaves university and can get an internship, a paid role, why wouldn't they stay in Oshawa and work in areas? It is so unfortunate that so many educated students finish school and have these big loans and all of these expenses that they paid for, and they put through a lot to gain their education, and they look around and there are no jobs available for them. I think the government needs to take part in supporting businesses to encourage the internship, as I mentioned earlier, and I feel that could help encourage them to work right here in Oshawa.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mrs. French.
Thank you very much. And I will, full disclosure, I spent the morning at Durham College getting a tour of the Skilled Trades Center and really got a chance to see the phenomenal innovation and opportunities there. I know that all of us will have that chance. But seeing it in person and realizing the potential also makes you realize the challenges. Students in Ontario pay country's highest tuition fees. A lot of them have to take on massive student debt for college, university, or an education in the trades. So we do need to ensure that if folks are trying to get that post-secondary education, that they have access to it and that they're not coming out saddled with massive debts. So, the NDP is focused on making post-secondary affordable for everyone so that people don't leave school with debt. We want to put graduates on solid ground so that they can get ahead. We've got a lot of cuts that were done to post-secondary. We will be reversing those, but I think it's important to realize that we want to do a find and fix audit of the funding in both college and university, and they're very different in terms of their challenges, the financial challenges. Tuition might be the piece to focus on in the university sector, and colleges have a very different bag of challenges, especially when it comes to skilled trades and the apprenticeship. So we will create thousands of new paid co-op and internship opportunities for young people to get that real life experience, and we want to really do that we're so lucky to have local institutions, but to do that in the community.
10 seconds.
We would double Ontario's Career Ready program from 2020 levels so that they can create additional work integrated learning opportunities and really help those students move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Down.
Both me and my husband are proud Durham College alumni, with my husband now working in the trades. When I had a chance to meet with Durham College this week, we went over the investments that we've already invested into the college programs, into the trades, and discussed what the future looks like in keeping students in our town, keeping these very talented students in our town. And since 2018, our PC government has invested significantly in the skilled trades, and we're starting to see that coming through. And that's why, as the PC government, it's important that we connect the working with workers to rebuilding our economy, because that is what's going to strengthen our workforce here. With Durham College, we talked about the fact that we've expanded the college degree for them to get a full degree in 3 years, and getting them ready and building that pipeline of jobs for them and applying that directly to businesses that are local and outside of Durham region. We've also provided $37 million to more than 15,000 people to upgrade their skills as well within and train for new jobs. And you know what, we don't have to look too far for this one. Again, our government is bringing in big investments to Ontario and to Oshawa specifically, and you look in our backyard and you see it with GM Canada and the 2,600 jobs and the third line. But what we really need to be looking at is, can our government, and I think our government can, I know our government can, we are the government with a real plan for housing, transportation, and work that'll keep people in our town.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, question 6. The workforce is being priced out of the real estate market. Here it is. This directly impacts our business community as hardworking people of every age move elsewhere in search of housing. There is also a lack of supply of affordable homes, especially within the GTA. What is your plan to respond to the housing affordability issue for Oshawa workers and residents? And we'll start with Jennifer French.
Thank you. And first of all, we are very excited to have brought out our housing plan and are intending to establish a new public agency called Housing Ontario. And I'll start on the rental side, to finance and build 250,000 new affordable and non-market rental homes. Because when you talk about the workforce in our area, some of our workforce are not going to, they're not aiming for home ownership, but they would like to be able to rent in the community, and so that's a piece of it. But in terms of the supply, we don't have the missing middle. Like we don't have that range of housing, and certainly the realtors and the folks that I've spoken to in this room, they've been beating that drum for a long time, that we don't have what we need, that families don't have, whether they're downsizing, whether it's families, trying to get just, whether it's a townhouse, and it's not here, and it's not being built. We have, large single-family homes, or we have kind of the studio apartment in the sky kind of thing, and we're missing everything in between. And so I'm surprised, the top recommendations of the Housing Task Force was or among the top was exclusionary zoning. So that is, that's part of the NDP platform, which fits with what we had heard from the real estate folks, was to make missing duplexes or townhouses, make them legal, build them where people want to live, to end exclusionary zoning. So I'm proud to be able to say that that is a part of it, but an NDP government would work with municipalities to reform land use planning, to accelerate the construction of homes. We would end exclusionary zoning, and ensure responsible development within existing urban boundaries. Oh, and there's time.
Thank you. Ms. Down.
My experience working with buyers and sellers in Oshawa has shown me that at the end of the day, the biggest issue fueling this housing crisis is not enough homes. We need more supply. And for decades, it would take, 10 years or more to build. I've seen this firsthand on the ground. And we don't need a government intervention that delays processes even longer, but rather less red tape to ensure more homes are built and shovels are in the ground. That's why our PC team introduced legislative, regulatory, policy changes to help build new homes in Ontario. And we've committed to building 1.5 million homes over the next 10 years, but we're backing it up by fixing the barriers while protecting health, safety, and the environment. As your MPP, I'm prepared to work with municipalities. We all know that this is a collaborative, collaborative item that we have to go through. And as a partnership, we need to be able to get as many homes and residential units in Oshawa as possible. We need to fill the missing middle. We need to have those entry-level homes for people to be able to stay. And our PC plan is an actual roadmap on how we're going to tackle the housing crisis. And we're getting it done. It's one thing to make a promise, but we're developing the framework to build those 1.5 million homes. And no matter what, everyone deserves a place to live.
Thank you very much. Ms. Mosca, after you.
We have a fully costed platform that includes the building of 1.5 million homes over 10 years. We are going to create the Ontario Home Building Corporation, who would oversee the building of those properties. This is a twofold problem. It's not just only building affordable homes, it is also ensuring that people can afford the homes. We need to find ways to put money into their pockets. So what we are doing is we are increasing the minimum wage. We are parents with young kids. We are we're going to introduce $10 daycare, before and after school daycare. That will put money into young families' pockets. We are also going to reimburse the 2,750 retroactive back to January 1st. We are going to put more money into seniors who, their old age security, those who need more. We are also reducing transportation, so we are finding ways to put money back into people's pockets. And these homes are going to be built, and a mandate is going to be given to the Ontario Home Building Corporation to build these houses rapidly. We are going to also ensure that they get the land to do it. We are going to tax anybody. There are going to be a levy on any builder who has property that is already prepared for building and is just sitting there. Because we see homes for people to live in and not for speculators. We are also going to tax non-residents. We're going to levy them if they have a home that is sitting empty. And also Canadians, we are going to do that. And all of that money from all of that will go right back
10 seconds.
into affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question. Ontario is experiencing increases in unsheltered individuals and deadly opioid addictions. In Oshawa, this is impacting the local downtown business community. It's been reported that the region has spent $25 million, and there are 43 support agencies in downtown Oshawa to solve these social issues. But how will you work with all the stakeholders to solve these social issues impacting our local businesses here in Oshawa? And we'll start with Ms. Down.
I understand the impact of not having a place to call home and the struggles that we're having in our downtown core in Oshawa and throughout Durham region. That's why I'm proud to be a part of a party who is bringing real initiatives forward and funding to various programs that can help. We announced $3 billion in funding to help sustain, repair, and grow community housing and address homelessness in Ontario. And in Oshawa, our MPP, a PC MPP, will ensure that Oshawa is on the map for that as well. This is just part of our PC's team's commitment to ending homelessness. Now, my father had a business in Oshawa at Olive and Simcoe for over 36 years, so we've seen firsthand what this looks like for downtown Oshawa and the neighboring neighborhoods surrounding it. And we will continue to make these investments because it is an important file, but it's an important file for me as well because this is my hometown and people need help in order to get themselves out of homelessness and into the programs that they deserve for the well-being of themselves and their health. So we've implemented a by names list as well with a real-time list of people experiencing homelessness. I had this conversation with Mayor Dan Carter and Regional Chair John Henry. And they're taking this detailed information about the needs of each person to improve their access to supportive housing. So again, I'm very proud of what our PC government is doing, and I will continue to advocate for those who need it most in Oshawa.
Thanks, Alex. Catherine Mosca, please.
It was heartbreaking to see what happened with homelessness and the opioid crisis, mental health issues just rising out at outrageous rates in Oshawa. And we cannot even say that it was affected by the pandemic because it was disproportionate to other cities. As Mahatma Gandhi said, the true value of a society can be found in how it treats its most vulnerable members. The attention that situation deserved, it did not get. It did not get. Unfortunately, we have an MPP that sat there for 8 years, and the voice was not loud enough to get the help and work with the appropriate bodies to get that problem resolved. Those people need, we would put community and care, provide those services for them, provide housing for them, and put money annually towards ensuring that does not continue. They need the help that they deserve. They are ill people. A lot of them are ill. Some just cannot afford. So there are different issues that we are dealing with all in one, some mental issues. It was not addressed properly and just was allowed to get completely out of hand. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mrs. French.
Thank you very much. And I will say that it has been heartbreaking. It's been very challenging for neighbors in Oshawa to see homelessness grow. Those who are unsheltered and without options, left kind of to their own devices without addiction support, without beds that they need to receive treatment. And the last government that we have had, right out the gate, sort of turned its back on that ending homelessness or ending chronic homelessness within 10 years. That was a goal. We're recommitting to that goal. The Auditor General said that we didn't have a plan to reduce or prevent homelessness. So we'll recommit to that crucial goal, but it's not enough to just say that. We will deliver 60,000 new homes with supports. And a lot of folks, recognize that supportive housing, it's missing, but it needs to be well funded, but it all needs to be interconnected. The City of Oshawa and the region have been doing their darndest without that provincial partner. I've been glad to do the work as the MPP, but when the government folks come to town, or the last PC government folks come to town and talk about housing, and then they don't follow it up with the dollars, or they're not, not investing in addiction support, well, then we're left on our own as a community. We're committed to addressing the social determinants of health, such as poverty. The unhoused folks need support. They need compassion, but they need funding. We've had a pandemic within a pandemic, and we've pushed the last premier to, even declare the opioid crisis a public health emergency, and that was a no-go. So moving forward, all of these pieces have to fit, and we have to admit that we not just have a problem, but that we have a responsibility. So as an NDP government, we know that it would be our responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Next question. Oshawa has 3 post-secondary institutions, the same ones I mentioned earlier. We have the Spark Center. We have private sector investments in tech, for example, the ACE Center at Ontario Tech, and the CTC McLaughlin Advanced Technology Track at General Motors. What are your plans to grow and advance Oshawa's tech and innovation sector to highlight Oshawa's strength within the GTA tech corridor, with these as some of the examples? And we'll start with Ms. Moscott, please.
I was fortunate recently to visit the Ontario Tech, and we were shown some of the, we were informed of some of the amazing things they're doing there. They have testing facilities for vehicles, and they test, they can create turbulence with winds and weather and whatever to test vehicles. That was very, very impressive. And they can just expand to the extent that they need. They have the knowledge, and they have their plans. They are also now focusing on an electric car. What was the name of it? I cannot recall what the name of it was. They are doing great work up there, and they will work with the industry. They are eager, and they have their plans. They will work with the industry to do whatever is needed and create the classes and the training to bring about, more tech in Oshawa and extend it to wherever else it is needed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. French.
Thank you. And what I had mentioned earlier about our small and medium-sized businesses, or our local folks being able to compete with big business. This is where, if innovation isn't given a pathway to grow, we don't see some of these potential successes. And yes, as you mentioned, the post-secondary institutions with the ACE ACE Center. These are remarkable. These are remarkable opportunities. The Spark Center for Innovation, I mean, I remember years ago thinking it was so far ahead of its time, and it still is, you know, and that time keeps moving forward, and the ideas coming out of there, there isn't funding for those, for the sort of testing or of those ideas, right? The government, different levels of government are looking for something that is further along in the line, and we do need to make sure that there's money put into our post-secondary systems, but also these incubators or these hubs to make sure that an idea can grow to be the big success story. You know, I tend to get excited about automotive. You know, we're here in Oshawa, but we'll be supporting the auto sector through a comprehensive zero-emission vehicle strategy, right? And so that's exciting stuff. Time, geez. But encouraging government procurement of the zero-emission vehicles, you know, allowing the next tech to move forward, and we'll support small business to help them not just recover from the pandemic, but actually be all that they envision. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Down.
I had a chance to meet with Ontario Tech a few weeks back, and it's just incredible what they're doing up there. And like my colleagues here, we had a chance to see the ACE tunnel. I don't know if any of you knew this, but they've got a small nuclear reactor in the basement of Ontario Tech. And it's just amazing that these students have access to these innovative technologies to propel them forward into the industry. Now, the reason I'm bringing up that aspect of things is because our PC government has brought forward the 2022 budget that is seizing opportunities in critical minerals, batteries, electric and hybrid vehicle manufacturing. We're delivering on better jobs and bigger paychecks for workers. And this includes keeping our students here in Oshawa to be able to work and live and play. You know, hopefully for the rest of their lives, they'll stay here in Oshawa. But there's opportunities when speaking with Ontario Tech that they've brought forward to our great city, connecting them with projects, real projects that small and large businesses are looking for innovative solutions from students to tackle. So we would continue to work collaboratively, not only with Ontario Tech and Durham College, but the universities and colleges throughout Ontario to encourage this partnership and be able to support in any way that we can.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on. How do you see Oshawa and Ontario more broadly contributing to the transition to zero emissions transportation? We'll start with Ms. French.
Well, thank you. And I was just alluding to this with the zero emissions vehicles strategy. That would be assisting with the transition from, you know, internal combustion engines, which we know, to the zero emissions vehicles. Encouraging government procurement of them, whether we're talking about government fleets, and offering accelerated depreciation of investments in ZEVs for commercial industrial consumers, investigating financial incentives for Ontario plants to retool. You know, when we look though at the electric future, and I remember years ago, you know, the big automakers were saying that the future is electric, and then right after 2018, the then premier, you know, pulling out all of the charging stations, while they're now, you know, the last premier did indeed start to take a look at the zero emissions and electric future, we need to be there, we need to be further along. And so investing in the infrastructure so that the average person can actually aim for that. When we're having conversations around electric vehicles with our neighbors, people are really interested and they're excited about it, but they're not entirely sure how we get from where we are now to that infrastructure. So investing in that, And I think certainly in Oshawa, as we're excited about the vehicle history that we've had, and we love our history, but we love our future, and moving forward, that's a big part of it, and we're excited about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Alex Down, please.
You know, this is a really good news story for the PC government and how we're moving forward with the transformation of the auto manufacturing industry in partnership to ensure that not only are we bringing good jobs to Oshawa and to Ontario, but we're setting ourselves forward as a world leader in production of electric vehicles and batteries. Electric vehicles undoubtedly will play a large role in reducing emissions. So what we have done is we've secured Ontario's first electric vehicle battery plant, creating 2,500 jobs. We've secured retooling of GM Oshawa and Ingersoll plants, retooling of Ford's Oakville assembly complex, retooling of Honda's Alliston plant, and Stellantis retooling of the Windsor and Brampton assembly line. We also partnered with steelmaker Dofasco with $500 million investment to replace their coal ovens and blast furnaces with a low-emission electric furnace. Now, these transformations alone will reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 3 million tons annually. And I'm proud to be a part of a PC team who knows that reducing emissions is a critical part in tackling our climate change. And that's why we're getting it done, and we're taking action on climate change. We're working for workers, but we're also rebuilding Ontario's economy.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Mosca.
The most important thing that we have to live on is our planet. That's our only planet. We have to ensure that the environment is clean and that emissions are reduced quickly. The Liberal Party was always very, very serious about climate change, etc. We were the first ones. We were the one to get rid of charcoal. The PC party did not really do anything much to reduce emissions over the past 4 years. We are going to ensure that we reduce emissions to 50% below the 2005 level by 2030. And down to zero by 2050. We have a plan to do this. We are going to scrap that 413 highway. That is just more emissions on that. And all that is doing is enriching Ford's buddies. We are going to get 400,000 vehicles off the road by reducing the transit to $1. We are going to encourage homes to retrofit and provide $3,000 grants accordingly to retrofit to make it more energy efficient. We are also going to give incentives to get electric vehicles and electric bikes, etc. We have a plan that is fully costed on how we are going to reduce emissions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll extend 30 seconds to Alex if you'd wish to respond.
We can actually reduce congestion and greenhouse gas emissions by alleviating bumper-to-bumper traffic on other major highways. And, you know, we're looking at Oshawa here. I'm running for the MPP for Oshawa, and I'm very proud to say that we're going to be pushing for that GO train extension to relieve congestion in our ways over here in Durham Region.
Thank you very much. Okay. Next question. Despite the supports that we have in place presently, including UHN, nursing programs in our colleges and universities, Lakeridge Health, and the Oshawa Clinic, ensuring capacity for healthcare is a business priority. To prevent business shutdowns in the future, the business community needs to hear how your government will ensure capacity in healthcare, including a stabilized and growing healthcare workforce. And we'll start with Alex.
If the pandemic has taught us anything, it's how important our healthcare system is here in Oshawa and across Ontario. We've learned a lot of lessons. We've learned where there's weaknesses in our healthcare system and our long-term care that, were inherited by previous governments. But during this crisis, what we saw is leadership emerge and step up to care for people. I think everyone can agree that Oshawa's very own Christine Elliott did a tremendous job considering the circumstances, and that there's no handbook on a pandemic like the one we just went through. Our PC team has invested more in healthcare than any other government in Ontario's history post-pandemic, and we have a plan to stay open and are going to be getting it done by saying yes to $40 billion over the next 10 years in hospital infrastructure, including creating 3,000 new hospital beds. We raised base funding and are flowing $1 billion over the next 3 years into home and community care, and we are building 30,000 new beds in long-term care and rebuilding nearly 30,000 more, which is taking the strain off of our hospitals, and we are investing it in frontline healthcare workers. Our PC team is building a modern system for the health teams to allow for easy transitions with one patient record and one care plan, and improving digital tools. And we're hiring over 5,000 new and upskilled registered nurses, as well as 8,000 personal support workers to critical areas.
Thank you very much. Ms. Mosca.
Yes, Alex is correct. The pandemic demonstrated the vast importance of the healthcare system and how it was broke now. Right now it's in crisis. Without health, we have nothing. Those healthcare workers, we cannot imagine what they went through and continue to go through. They were dealing with death on a daily basis, more rapidly than they were ever trained to expect. They were dealing with being there with patients that could not have their families with them. We really cannot imagine what mental stress and physical stress that put them through. And it was heartbreaking to know that the Ford government would not repeal Bill 124 that capped wages for these healthcare workers. It was also shocking and heartbreaking to see private long-term care investors being protected from being accountable for the deplorable conditions and the deaths of our vulnerable seniors. We have a plan to rebuild our healthcare system, and it's fully costed. We intend to get 100,000 more healthcare workers. We intend to ensure that PSW's minimum salaries will be $25 per hour, and that all other healthcare workers will be paid appropriately. And we'll do that through proper negotiation. We are going to get rid of that backlog of surgery by investing $1 billion over 2 years. We are going to increase hospital beds, increase hospital capacity, etc., to ensure that we can take the level that is needed.
10 seconds.
Yes, we have a plan, and it's fully costed, and there's so much more that we have that I don't have time to talk about concerning our health, rebuilding our healthcare system.
Thank you very much. Ms. French.
Yes, thank you very much. And the thing that I think we've all learned and for this election is that politics is very personal, that it matters who's at the helm, it matters what decisions the government of the day is making, and we know that when we are waiting at the hospital, when we can't get an ambulance because there aren't any available, when our loved ones don't have a space in long-term care. Like, we realize how important it is to all the way along invest in healthcare, and so we have, legacy challenges and new ones when it comes to healthcare. It's important to place a moratorium on any further layoffs of nurses and healthcare workers. We need to come together with healthcare partners to make sure we have the right staffing makeup and appropriately pay and staff. We have to, not just recruit but retain nurses and PSWs, but healthcare professionals. When we have nurses basically fleeing the province because they can't make enough money and going to the States. That should not be happening, not when they want to stay and work here. But paying PSWs what they're worth and having a permanent wage increase, that shouldn't have been a fight, so that's something we're committing. But more than investing in the hospital infrastructure physically, we need to invest in the hospital human resource infrastructure. Home care is interconnected, all of this. People, if they can stay healthy and well in their homes, they're less likely to need to go to the hospital in an emergency. If they're in better health at home. We've got excellent plan for dental, mental health care, our universal mental health plan, which would be covered by OHIP. All of these things support workers in the community, support families, and privatizing PS is the wrong direction. We need to put public dollars into public care to make sure that the public gets the most out of that care. Oh man, that 2 minutes goes by fast.
Thank you. And we'll extend just 30 seconds to Ms. Down if there's desire to respond to a couple of comments made.
Doug Ford and our PC team has been getting it done by strengthening our public health care system, especially throughout the pandemic. And we're responding to the pandemic needs and working towards ending hallway health care. But any accusations otherwise is false. And a cornerstone of our belief is a publicly funded healthcare system, meaning people in Ontario do not have to pay out of pocket. I will stand by that.
Thank you. And Ms. French?
I want to say that Bill 124 was absolutely a Doug Ford decision. That was the capping wages and benefits. And so when you have nurses who are stuck at that 1%, and that's wages and or benefits, all without 1% cap, people can't get the mental health coverage that they need. We can't just say that people are heroes and then pay them like zeros, right? Like it's not enough to bang pots and pans. We have to actually allow workers to freely, collectively bargain their wages. We're committed to that.
Thank you. Ms. Mosca, 30 seconds if you wish to reply.
No, I will just add something. I mean, I've spoken to nurses, we are calling people all the time, and a lot of them have left because of pay. Not so much the stress. Stress was one thing, but they felt disrespected, they felt unrewarded, and by 124 not being repealed, that was one of the main reasons they left, because they felt insulted and unappreciated.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're getting there. Final question. Here it is. Are you in support of one level of local government merging the regional and municipal governments, and if so, why? We'll start with Alex Down.
To be honest, I would need to see what that looks like. I mean, I don't currently sit in government to be able to understand the full makeup of what the benefits were to be to merge it or to not merge it. So I'm not going to sit here today and say that one way is better than the other without fully comprehending the reporting that goes into a decision like that. That is a very big decision that changes the makeup here in Oshawa and in Durham region. And today is not the day for me to make that decision up here. It would be after looking over all of the reporting and fully understanding what that means for our region and for our city.
Okay, thank you. Pardon me, Ms. Mosca.
I agree with Alex. That is, they all have their separate roles. I think the important thing is that they should all learn to work together in the interests of the constituents. I cannot make a comment, as Alex said, as to whether they should be merged or not at this stage. Sorry.
No, that's all right. Ms. French.
I think it's an interesting question. I want to know the backstory and where it came from, but I don't think I can get that right now. Listen, one thing that I've learned sitting across from the Doug Ford Conservatives was that they had their own opinions about the role of municipal or regional governments, and we lived through the Toronto elections and watched how government of one level stuck its finger into government of another level. And I think that whatever happens with regional or municipal government, this has to be shaped by the needs of a community, and not whether vendetta or personal opinions of someone at the helm of a different level of government. The downloading has to stop. We've seen municipal governments, whether regional or city or small town, be completely disrespected in different ways. And if you were to talk to the folks at the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, you're going to hear something similar to that. They may word it differently, but we do need to ensure that when they come to the table, provincial or federal, with community asks, that we're answering them, that we're working with them, and that we're respecting different levels of government. Would I support a merge? I really don't know what that would look like or why, because I work with right now the region and I work with the city, and I know that their hands have been tied often when dealing with the last government, and I would like to untie their hands. Like, I would like for them to be able to have the funding that they need, that when they're knocking at the doors for building affordable housing or having investment in the community, that they shouldn't have to, that they should have a partner who comes to the table with answers and predictable funding. So that's my answer to that.
Thank you. Not an easy question, so thanks for working through that one, all three of you. Just trying to trip you up a little. Okay, we've reached a segment for an opportunity for some closing remarks from each of our candidates tonight. I mentioned at the beginning, we'll put 3 minutes on the clock for each individual, and we will start with Jennifer French.
Thank you, and I really appreciate tonight, and I'm sure we're all sitting here thinking of all the things that we coulda, shoulda, woulda said, and I'm going to go back to what I had originally offered, which is, the NDP platforms are online. And when I say platforms, yes, we have our big, platform with all of the goodies in the window, but also drilling down into mental health care, universal mental health. And I think we all universally understand the need to be investing in mental health and make it more accessible with an OHIP card, not a credit card, whether it's dental, whether it's investing in health care. We really didn't talk about long-term care and home care, and I know that that is something that folks across the community know intimately well right now. I'm a caregiver. My grandmother's 101. She's awesome. She's 101, and she finally has a space in long-term care. And when I have the honor of standing alongside families who are navigating these systems that have been eroded, that have been allowed to be privatized through the year, and now we're seeing that the quality of care is missing, we have to choose a government that is going to say, well, not just going to say, that it's going to make that difference in the lives of our neighbors, of ourselves, of our loved ones, whether that's healthcare, long-term care, investing in transit, education. Our public services and our public sector really does deserve investment. Through the last 4 years has been a struggle watching things be eroded, watching the cuts that started before the pandemic that will continue after if we give them another kick at the can. And I sat across from a Liberal majority for 4 years, and I don't ever want to do that again. But being fair, we are at this point now, and moving forward, we have to have a hopeful vision that is, we've got a fully costed platform that is responsible, that respects people's hard-earned tax dollars and shows you what you get for it. And it needs to be services and supports in the community so that people can indeed have hope, live with dignity, have homes that they can afford, live in communities where they are safe, and have access to healthcare, the services that they need. And I do think that that's possible. So, it's not just that I'm New Democrat and I love our platform. I believe in our platform. And when you take the time to delve into it, I think that there are a lot of head nods because you know the people we're talking about. You are the people that we're talking about. Andrea Horvath and the NDP will absolutely represent the people in this room, but the people across the province, and not just the folks who stand to get, richer and richer, who are in it to make a buck and not in it to make Ontario better.
10 seconds.
So again, I'm seeking your support. I wake up every day and I'm committed to doing this work sincerely on behalf of the folks from Oshawa, and I thank you very much for this evening.
Thank you very much. Ms. Mosca, the floor is yours.
COVID-19 taught us many things. We had a lot of suffering that went through. People suffered in different ways, physically, emotionally, financially. But one of the things that COVID-19 did for me was it allowed me time to sit back and look at our province. You remember we read of the lakes that cleared and you could see the fish clearly for the first time in a long time. That happened to me. And I looked at our province and I saw things like while those nurses were working head and tail, that Bill 124 was not being repealed. I saw things, as I mentioned before, about wealthy investors being protected from being accountable for the deaths of thousands of seniors and the deplorable condition they were in. I saw things like private schools being given 175,000 rapid antigen tests, more than prisons, daycare, shelters put together. I saw social and financial inequalities. And the racialized minorities were affected more deaths, more poverty, more homelessness, while the wealthy are getting richer in a pandemic. And I said something has to be done. This is not the Ontario that I brought my children here to live and have a better life. Something needs to be done. I am proud to say that the Liberal Party has developed its platform by consulting with the communities at large. We learned a serious lesson in 2018, and we decided to do things differently. We consulted with communities at large. As I said, we got about 40,000 ideas and suggestions, over 250,000 votes. That is what helped us build our platform. So everything that we have built in our platform, and it is properly costed out, was done from the grassroots up. We did not sit in an ivory tower and tell people what it is they needed. I remember during consultation, because I was part of a squad that was consulting on what we need, what do you want. Quite often I would hear, thank you for consulting with us without telling us what we need, without asking us what we need, right? Thank you for consulting with us.
10
So
seconds.
I have confidence that the Ontario Liberal Party is the party to take our country forward in a fair way. The PCs, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Alex Down.
I'd like to thank everyone for attending today's debate, and for those that are watching from home. My name is Alex Down. I'm your PC candidate for Oshawa, and I'm also your neighbor. It's our PC plan for jobs, our plan for opportunities. It's a plan that says yes to putting shovels in the ground for the GO train extension to Thornton Road, Ritson Road, Curtis, and Bowmanville, creating jobs and houses, bringing businesses, and cutting down commute times. It's a plan that says yes to reopening of GM Canada's Oshawa plant with 2,600 new jobs and a third line. It's a plan that says yes to building houses you can afford, yes to building more long-term care beds, and yes to recruiting more than 27,000 personal support workers, nurses, and doctors. It's clear that Doug Ford is going to rebuild Ontario, and Oshawa deserves a seat at the decision-making table, not on the sidelines. As your MPP, I would be honored if you would allow me to be your voice and make my hometown proud. It's time for Oshawa to be on the side of investment and growth in Ontario, and it starts by voting for Alex Down in 2022. Thank you.
thank you all very much. On behalf of Durham Region Real Estate Association of Realtors, pardon me, Durham Region Home Builders Association, and of course as well as the Greater Oshawa Chamber of Commerce. I'd like to thank the candidates first for your commitment, again, as I said at the beginning, to service to our community, for your time to be here tonight. I know these are sometimes uncomfortable conversations, and there's, as was mentioned a few times, lots to say in a pretty short period of time. So thank you for playing by the rules and finding succinct ways to deliver your message. I think all three of you did a wonderful job, so thank you for that. Yeah. I'd like to thank again our partners, including Rogers Television for broadcasting the pre-recording of this at a future date, as well as again to the Biltmore Theatre for hosting us this evening. Thank you very much for opening up your beautiful venue to us here. So thank you as well. And as well to our audience, the great news, the security team was bored all night. And that's thanks to your kind patience and willingness to be here for all the right reasons and educate yourselves and hear what our candidates had to say through our questions. As mentioned, there are 3 tables across the back of the room. I do hope that if interested, you'll stick around for a little while. Our candidates will be at their tables. You'll find them there at the back, and you'll have that opportunity to address maybe some of your own particular questions. If there were things that were missed up here on the platform today that you'd like that opportunity to deliver that message, now is your chance. And if you are heading out, I hope that it's to a local establishment here somewhere to support our local economy and our local business community.
Hello, Oshawa. My name's Dave Forsyth, and I'm the Ontario Party candidate for you. I'm a devoted Christian husband, father, and freedom fighter. We as the Ontario Party have 3 core values which define the rest of who we are: faith, family, and freedom. Our party charter echoes the Canadian Bill of Rights, which affirms the supremacy of God and the rule of law. Thus, we all have the inherent right to life, liberty, and private property. Firstly, this means we intend to advocate for the individual right to bodily autonomy and informed consent. We intend to launch a full-fledged inquiry into all arenas that have been participating in the global power grab through mandating experimental treatments. We want to see those involved held to account through the due process of law. Secondly, we intend to put the responsibility and freedom of choice when it comes to education back into the hands of the family. The family government is foundational, not the civil government. We want to enable families to freely choose a curriculum for their children that aligns with their own family values while not being forced to fund a government system they don't believe in. Lastly, we intend to reverse the massive inflation we've all seen in the housing market. We've all seen how devastating Trudeau's immigration policy, together with Ford's zoning regulations for building homes, has been here in Ontario. Many homes in Ontario are now priced at $1 million. We intend to demand provincial autonomy on the point of immigration. Likewise, we'll open up the zoning policy to enable needed homes to be built. In conclusion, the truth is that politics is the process of legislating morality. Do you want the Ontario legislature in Queen's Park to continue to be dominated by those driven by an ideology that's based in self-promotion, power grabbing, and theft? Or do you want someone who's driven by an ideology that's based in objective truth and treating everyone as people created with inherent dignity, value, and worth? Who will you choose to represent you? Thank you, and God bless.
Hello, Oshawa. My name is Daryl Jansen, and I am the Oshawa New Blue MPP candidate for the upcoming provincial election. For the past 17 years, I have been a member of the Canadian Armed Forces, where I completed 2 combat tours in Afghanistan, and I have always thought of myself as a soldier and not a politician. Today, however, I stand before you as a concerned citizen, worried about the direction and capacity of our leader. Like many of you, I have been shocked by our province's mismanagement of the pandemic, senior care, and fundamental individual rights. When did dignity become such a small word? The New Blue Party of Ontario will renew dignity and transparency to Ontario politics. We will ensure that Ontarians are treated as citizens and not taxpayers. Most importantly, we will return your voice to the Ontario Legislative Assembly. This June 2nd, stand against a political system